Hired Farmer John, and it is Tuesday morning. Well, actually, it's midday, just after lunch. Feels like morning. It was about 26 here in Georgia this morning, so that's why I got my hat and my coat on. But had two requests for video, so here we go. I found a video that we can do that I get so many questions on, so I'm going to do this video based off a John Deere 1010 crawler. So we're going to take a walk around it and I'll tell you what we're going to talk about. Okay, here's the John Deere 1010 crawler. And one of my most common questions is, when buying a 1010 or any other of the crawlers, what to look for when I'm buying. Most people are buying them not running. I'd say probably about 80% of them. That's why we restore them, or we use them for parts. So I'm going to walk around the 1010 and just sort of show you what I look for buying them. We don't always buy the crawlers, because if they're too bad, then you're not going to have good parts off of them. We try to buy crawlers that are at least decent or was running, that are not all rusted up. If you go and look at a machine and it's rusted up a lot, I'd probably say run from it. If it's not rusted so bad, then you probably have a chance. But let me walk you around. I'm going to just show you what I sort of look for when buying stuff, and then we'll talk a little bit more about. First thing coming up, I usually look at the exterior of it, make sure it's not all beat to pieces. A lot of people drive them and use them for bulldozers like they're supposed to, but this is not a D10 Caterpillar, so you know, it's a 1010 and you can do light duty work with it, grading, push some small little trees down, I mean very little, and it's great for grading dirt and gravel off. So that would be the use for it. This particular one has a 6-way manual blade on it, which is a nice feature. It has the hydraulic track adjusters on it, which we'll see if we can zoom down in there, which was a nice feature. This particular one has a winch on it, but of course the winch side over here is gone, so it's missing the brakes and the clutches in it. So does it work? I don't know. A good feature to have. It has a deluxe seat frame on it. Another good feature to have. It does have a reverser, and it's got a tack in it for 1010. Okay, 1010, this is a 4-cylinder gas. I was told it was running. The guy was using it when we bought it. We bought it at an auction. So I bought it for just parts, so I didn't really care if it ran or not. The motor did seem like it turned, so I'm probably thinking it may run, but we're going to put a battery in it and check it. Okay, some of the things we'll look for when buying them. First thing to do is walk around the engine. Make sure there's no cracks or break in the engine. If you're looking at a 1010 or any 440s and 420s, if you have a broken block, you're talking about a lot of money to fix them. You're asking how much? Well, it can be 500, it can be $1,000 or more. So engine department, always look at them, make sure they're complete. Got the exhaust manifold, carburetors on them, starters. Like I said, make sure there's no cracks in the blocks. Always check that. You can usually put your hand on the fan blades and try to turn it. If not, take a battery, try to put in it and see if it'll turn over. Always check the oil. Make sure that the oil doesn't have white, milky, soupy anything in it. If it's got water in it, you probably have some reason to think that it might be blowing has gaskets or many other different things wrong. So anyhow, major expense in a motor if the motor is bad. So check out the motor really good. The tracks. When looking at the tracks, what you want to do is, you can tell a lot of times by the cleats, by how tall they are. These cleats are about 3/4 of an inch, and say factory wise they're probably about 1.25 inches. But a lot of times people will put different tracks and leave their pads on. So if they got about 3/4 or better, I would say the pads are in pretty good shape. Looking at the idlers on the front, they're usually about 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch thick, and your wear marks here and your rails, 1/4 to 3/8. you're going to check and inspect. Another expensive feature is the rails. And what you want to do is put your hand up under here and you can feel the bushings. The bushing should be nice and round. If you run your hand all the way around the top to the bottom, you can feel the tops where they're nice. Roll your hand around to the bottom. If there's any that are broke out, more than likely the bushings and pins will have to be replaced, which is another major expense. You want to look at the rails and look at the thickness of them. They're usually going to be about 5/8 to 3/4 of an inch thick if they're in really good shape. If they're down less than 1/2 inch, I'd say they're probably wore out. So those are some things you can visually do to check them. Your upper idler wheels here, just check them, make sure they're not burnt through or possibly needing change. Even though that's not a major cost, you may have a few $100 in changing a wheel. So not a real bad item there. This one has the sprocket covers, which is nice. Not all of them have that, but that's nice to have. Inspect your final drives. Always, you can go in on them and look and make sure that they're not broke. If they're broke, that's another major expense. Tearing off got to tear the tracks off, sprockets to get to the final drives, and they're expensive. You can go ahead and start it, Larry. Another thing on undercarriage inspecting, if you look at the tracks, the sprockets, see this one's got about 3/8 of an inch on the wear on the sprockets. They're really good sprockets. Actually, these are probably fairly close to new with that much wear on them. And these sprockets and chains are already sold, by the way, because they're in good shape. But anyhow, this one here, the dash, it's got a tack and stuff in it, but it doesn't. I don't see an hour meter in this tack. So I don't know how many hours. Not really worried about hours when we're buying machines like this. A lot of people may worry about it, but you know, they're 50 years old, so or more. So that's not one thing I'd be really worried about. They run good. I'd be more concerned with that than the hours at this point. Okay, so one other question would be, okay, so I found this crawler. It's at a sale or an individual has it. What do I pay for it? If the crawler's sitting and it's a running crawler, I mean, you could pay as much as $5,000, maybe $7,500 on these 1010 crawlers now, especially with a winch and a 6-way blade. From there, you just start backing out if you need tracks and chains. If the motor's bad, you also have to ask yourself, do you want to do that much work, or would you rather spend the money and buy one running that needs minor repairs on it? My rule of thumb is if they're rusty really bad, the motors aren't running, I'm going to buy it at scrap prices. There's no need to even think about changing the motor over, not unless you're planning on keeping it and using it. They are nice for hauling around the back of a truck, so that is nice because of the weight. But if you're planning on doing a lot of work, you may think about going up to like a 350. You're going to do a lot more work than a 1010, not unless you get a really good price on it. But the notes I was telling you on the stuff to check on these crawlers, that's going to carry over into like the MCs and 40s, 420s. Save yourself a lot of money. Make you a list if you need to before you go and buy the tractors or crawlers. Look at them so you know what to look at. A lot of times you get there and you're excited to see them, like most people, even I am sometimes, to find one and want to buy it. But make you a list before you go. Check it so you know what you're checking on the motors and oil. That way when you walk around you'll be able to, you know, make your own judgment if it's worth buying or if it's not. And I know a lot of times if you buy these and you can get them cheap enough, you know, $1,000, $1,500, you can afford to put a bunch of money into them and have you a nice machine when you're done. But those are some of the tips that I use on buying. And like I said, sometimes we buy them for parts, sometimes we buy them to run. But I always expect the unexpected when you buy used stuff. So if you're going to spend $2,500, you're probably going to spend $3,500 to fix them. That's just the way it goes. But anyhow, I just thought I'd do this video. It's a little long, but it takes more than about 10 minutes anyhow if you're going to buy a tractor to look at, but this is the condensed version of it. And Larry and I are going to put a battery in right now and see if this thing will even turn over. So anyhow, I hope these tips help you in buying your next crawler. If you're buying one and these tips help you, let us know. Farmer John signing out.